to episode 106 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Selma Knits, and I am coming to you from a fairly snowy Ottawa. We finally got snow. And I have to say, even though it is much colder, it does make a world of difference, and it just adds a beautiful brightness to everything, and it's been great. So I'm happy overall. There's going to be lots of shoveling and iciness that we have to be careful with and all that jazz. But anyway, it's lovely, and it does create for a much nicer sort of Advent and Christmas season. So I'm really, really happy about that. So welcome. One comment about my last video, that there was some footage that for some bizarre reason did not upload into YouTube. It was there when I edited my podcast. So my apologies for that. There was shots of our dog Dipper, who is doing fabulously well, by the way. Before I forget, we are in full training mode with her, and it's just great. In fact, this morning, we took her to my mother's retirement home and did some work with her there in terms of being calm around people who are less steady on their feet or in wheelchairs and all that kind of stuff. And so it was really great. Anyway, there you go. Lots of stuff to tell you today. I feel like my head is exploding with information. So let's see how this goes. If I seem to be all over the place, that's possibly because my mind is just jumping around with all the things that I want to make sure that I tell you. So thank you for being here. Welcome. I hope you're along with for the ride, and I hope you have a lovely cup of something. I've got this lovely, lovely mug that one of my kids gave me a few years ago, and in it is a cup of the original chai by Vahdam, which is, I believe, an Indian tea company, and they have lots of amazing teas. I've only ever seen their tea on Amazon, although I would imagine they probably have a website. And I have their original chai here. So cheers. Whatever you may have in your hands, or for, you're in your hands in either way, whether you're working on it or drinking or eating or whatever. Hello, or ironing or cleaning. Hello and welcome. Nice to have you here. So since the last episode, I have launched my Patreon page. So I'll put the link below for that. And I've got a couple of videos. I think I've got 3 videos actually. So if you're interested in joining over on Patreon, please feel free to check it out even. The link is down below. And thank you to those of you who have supported me through Ko-fi or through Patreon. It's really, really wonderful to build community in different ways as well. And I think Patreon will be really fun. If you have been supporting the podcast through Ko-fi, and the link below is for that as well, please feel free to move over to Patreon, where we'll be able to interact a lot more. I'll be producing videos. Eventually, I'll be adding more on there. So I kind of did that. I had a burst of energy after my last episode, so I didn't announce it on the last episode because I didn't expect it to just suddenly be up. And lo and behold, it was up, and I had posted a video. So feel free to go and check that out. It's pretty exciting. I'm really looking forward to exploring, a different way of having a knitting community. Please be advised that my podcast itself will not change. I will be here every 3 weeks like I always have been for the last 7.5 years, I think. So that is not going to change at all. But if you want to be more involved and have extra content, feel free to check out over there. What else? I think I'm ready to go. We're going to be talking about knitting, of course. I'm going to be sharing with you my Advent knitting. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about new patterns in my library, the 2 knit-alongs or make-alongs, I'm going to call them, that I'd like to start January 1st. And tell you also about some upcoming retreats that I'm going to be involved in, upcoming meaning in the next year. and we'll just do a little bit of end of video chat as usual. Today I won't have any footage for you. I have not been doing anything out in the world that would be footage worthy. In part, that's because November was extremely busy, bleak in terms of beauty, and I have had an injury to my left knee. I had an injury many years ago to my right knee in the 90s, in fact, and that I had surgery on that, and that's always been called my bad knee, but it's functioned really quite well. But something happened this fall, and I have hurt my supposedly good knee, and it's a little bit more stable now. We're still investigating what's going on. I've had x-rays. There's no major arthritis. There's nothing like that. So I'm just waiting for an MRI. And I am going to a couple of different practitioners, and it certainly has helped, but there's still something going on there. So I have not been doing as many hikes, walks, beyond walking the dog, because I just could not. And there were days where I really couldn't even walk the dog because I was in a lot of pain. So I have nothing to share with you in terms of footage at the end of the podcast. So I think what I'm going to do is share some images of patterns that are in my favorites that I'm really eyeing. And I'll just share those with you at the end with music, and you can have a look at them if you're interested. So there you go. That's what we've got in store. Let's start, because you're probably wondering, why is Selma taking so long to talk about what she is wearing? So what am I wearing? This is a test knit for Rebecca Clow, who is also known as the Crayabea, and this is her vest called the Staffin vest. Now, her pattern, when it comes out, I believe January 10th is her target date. There will be a vest, which I test knit. There will be a cardigan and a sweater. And I believe she just released a Staffin shawl that was for charity. And certainly in the group, we're talking about, can we get a dog sweater out of this? We'll see what happens. But I finished my vest because it was such a pleasant knit, and I couldn't put it down. So this is the Staffin vest. And I've actually been wearing it a lot because it is such an easy wear knit. I will put up some footage here. Today I'm wearing it with this gray shirt, but you'll see in the footage that I have also tried it on with a crisp white shirt, as well as a blue pinstriped shirt, as well as a white sort of, what would you call that? Like a poofy sleeve top that I have, that you've seen me model other things like my vest last time. And it really looks good with a variety of things. I even wore it to work the other day with black dress pants and the white crisp shirt and a little necklace underneath. And it was great, really, really comfy. And I've gotten some compliments on it as well. And I made it. So a little bit about the pattern. It is a top-down pattern. It's got some really nice features to it, which I won't say too much about, but it's a great construction. And it's just got these different stitch patterns, and Rebecca walks you through, of course, the stitch patterns, but the construction with the stitch patterns. I ended up making mine a little longer, and as you could see in the videos, in the pictures, it's quite a relaxed looking sweater or vest. It was supposed to be more like this, and it was supposed to end after this and have ribbing, but there is the option of adding an additional 2x2 ribbing section before you go into the 1x1. And I did that originally because I thought it was going to be short. And I at first thought, oh dear, is it too long? But I actually quite like it because many of my vests are a little bit more cropped. So it's kind of nice to have one that's a little bit longer. And I feel like there's a bit of a grandfather feeling to this vest, at least the way mine came out. And so I thought having it be a little bit longer sort of fits the vibe a little better. So I decided to keep it. I ended up having to work the armholes a couple of different times. And one I did a pickup rate of 3 out of 4, and the other one I ended up doing a pickup rate of 2 out of 3 rows. And you'll see in the video that I'll just post here that there was a difference, like it was a noticeable difference between the 3 out of 4, so you end up with more stitches. I ended up with 92 stitches, and the other one in which I ended up with 80 stitches. And I ended up preferring the 80 stitches, which just gave it a little bit more of a closed look. And I bound off with my traditional sort of, I don't know what it's called. I found out recently and I don't remember, but it's just a slip stitch kind of bind off. I bound it off quite tightly actually, so that it wouldn't flare at all, so that it would sit really nicely. And I think it's turned out really good. And the nice thing about that, and the thing that I noticed, was that it helped to bring up the vest just a tiny bit than when it was looser. So the whole vest kind of went up. After I finished doing the ribbing on the neck, I felt like it had ended up a little bit too big. So I went back and reduced the stitch count by 12 or 14 stitches, and also bound off a little bit more snugly, and it's turned out well. And it's turned out really, really great, and it just fits really beautifully. There's nothing that feels constricted, but I just bound off a tiny bit more tightly than I normally do. And it worked out really well. So a really, really fun knit, I have to say. I could see myself making the sweater of this, which is a raglan shape, for myself or for somebody else. It was knit with 5mm needles, I believe. What was the gauge? I think it was 16 stitches, something like that, 17. And so it was very fast as well, and really, really enjoyable. Really well written pattern, and some really nice details. And I have to say that there are purl increases, which I often find challenging to do, but Rebecca explained them so clearly that I had no problems doing it. And I think what I should do is like snip that out or remember and go back and reference her instructions, because when I have done purl increases or increases on the purl side in other patterns, I have often struggled to figure out which direction goes in which way, but the way she explained it was so clear. So really lovely. Rebecca puts out great patterns, and the thing about Rebecca's patterns is that they're often multiple versions within the same pattern. So you really are getting your bang for your buck. If you really enjoy making one, then you can make the other, the cardigan or the vest if you've made the sweater, and so forth. So really, really nice. Now I knit this out of Lang yarns. And it was the yak base, which is a 70% merino and 30% yak. It's a blown yarn, and I don't have any yarn with me here, but you can see that it's got kind of a gray undertone. It's got this gray fluff coming through, and that is the yak. It's just a beautiful, beautiful yarn. It's blown, as I said, so it's very light and airy. And interestingly, I think knit with that yarn at a slightly looser gauge, this is not a very warm vest. And I kind of like that about it, because that's going to extend its life in terms of wearability into the spring or in the earlier fall. It's very light and gives a very gentle warmth. So that was a little bit unexpected from this yarn. But I love this yarn. This yarn was very kindly gifted to me by Smita, who has the online shop called Your Next Knit. And she had sent me this yarn, and I have been on the site multiple times looking at the yarn and thinking, maybe I should get myself some more, but I think I'll hold off on that for now. But really a beautiful, beautiful knitting experience. If you're interested in checking Smita's shop out, she has actually given us a discount code of 15% using Selma15, and you can go on there and check that out. We haven't really decided an end date for that, but let's say that the end date for that will be end of January for that code, and I'll let Smita know. So you've got almost a couple of months to check it out and check her shop out, and the 15% is for any of the yarn. But this yarn is really quite magical. It is a pricey yarn, but I have to say I would knit with it again. I'm very, very curious to see how it wears. I can see that there are some very tiny pills here and there, but it's not too bad. It's not bad at all. At this point, I would say that it's wearing well. I think you have to expect some pilling here and there, but it's just unfortunate when yarns lose their stitch definition because they just pill so much and it just becomes this fuzzy kind of thing. That's when I'm a little bit disappointed. So far, there is no immediate wear on this that is at all upsetting, and I'm hoping that it wears well. And if it does, I'll definitely be going back for more. All right, so let's go on to my works in progress. As far as whips go, I think we could put them into two categories. There's sort of the pre-Advent Christmas knitting, and then there's the Advent Christmas knitting. So let's talk about the two pre ones first. In this bag by Julgubbe, which is a Quebec bag maker, she makes fabulous bags. Here is her little thing, which would be black backwards anyway. Lovely, lovely bag maker. Inside here is my Drevo. Now I'm going to be putting this aside for the coming weeks. If I have time, I'll get to it. If not, it's just going to have to wait until the Christmas season is a little bit over. This is the Drevo by Patons. I'll put a picture of the original pattern here. And you've heard me talk about this. As soon as it came out, I bought it. I wanted to make it. And I've ended up using yarn that is very similar in color to the original. The original was made in Retrosaria Pomar Vovo, which is a light DK weight yarn. I ended up buying this yarn at Rhinebeck. It's the Shenandoah yarn, and it's an alpaca merino bamboo blend. Now this has a little bit of heathering to it. So in retrospect, I'm not sure this was the best choice for this particular pattern because it doesn't show the cables, which are a little subtle, very well. But I've decided I'm going to stay committed to this, and I've really been enjoying it. It is a sweater pattern that does require a little bit of concentration, but it's still great. And oh, you can't see them very well. It's sort of blowing it out a little bit. But there are cables there. And that's kind of, oh, there we go. There you see them in that lighting a little bit better. It's subtle. It's a little bit more subtle than it should be, but I think it's going to be all right. In real life, you actually see them better than is coming on screen for some weird reason. I don't know if it's just there's too much light there. So I'm not very advanced on this. I've still got a ways to go before I finish this section. And as I said, I've taken a break from this, but so far it's a complex pattern, but it's very well explained and I'm really enjoying the process. The yarn is beautiful to work with and it's a pleasure to follow the pattern. So for now, this is just being put aside, but I did get some progress on that and I did want to bring it up. Beautiful pattern by Teti, who just makes such gorgeous patterns. She's such a beautiful designer. So the next whip, unfortunately, is one that I will not be continuing for now. It's a beautiful one and it's being held in this beautiful bag by Antler and Acorn. Really gorgeous Harris tweed. I do love Harris tweed. It's beautiful. And this is the test knit that I was doing for Isabella Clark. Her velvet moss test vest, which I think I'm not actually sure when she's hoping to bring it out. I was just really struggling with this one. As I said, November was, there was a lot going on. I wasn't feeling well with my leg. Life was really busy and I just could not seem to get past the first part of this sweater. And I would say that it's an advanced knit and look at how beautiful that is. It's absolutely stunning, but First, the mosaic pattern, for some reason, is not intuitive to me, at least not yet. I haven't done a lot of it. And then I just was really struggling to knit this, which is sideways as well. I think if it had been knit upwards in the sort of a traditional way or top down with the stitch pattern, I may have gotten through it. My head may not have had such an issue, but I was really struggling. And so I have had to back out of this, which I feel really bad about. But she took it well, and I do hope to talk a little bit more about her patterns. And I really, really like the people who were finishing their patterns. They were absolutely beautiful. Absolutely, it is a stunning, stunning pattern. But I just don't seem to have the brain space for this right now for some reason. So I am putting this on hold, and I won't be finishing my test knit at this point, but maybe I will knit the vest at a future time when my head is working a little better. I don't know what it is, and it sucks the joy out of you when you just can't seem to make it work. And it's not necessarily that it's complicated, but for some reason, it just wasn't working with my brain. So I have put that aside for now. And I love my combination of yarns, and I think it would have made a really, really fun vest. So we'll see if I'm able to pick that up again in the future with a different brain space. I don't know. The next things that I'm knitting are all either Advent or Christmas related. I decided for Advent this year to work on 3 different projects daily. So to do 2 or 3 rows or a round, or just work on that for 20 minutes. So I chose 3 projects. The first one is this crochet blanket. And if you say, hey, I've never seen that crochet blanket, maybe you haven't been around since 2017. I think I started this in 2017 or 2018 or something like that, a long time ago. And all I have left is the border. This is not quite twin bed size, but it is pretty much a pretty good size. My original idea was to make a really thick border on it with some sort of nice edging. Let's see if I have the stamina for that. I am trying to work on about a half a row a day. But the long edge is quite long, and it's just full of minis all around. And yeah, it's going to have a gazillion ends because I'm just not that person. I am not the person who's going to put in the ends, sew in the ends as I go. It's just not me. But I'm okay with that, because usually what happens is I finish all the work, and then I know that I'm going to take a week where every evening I work for 20 minutes and I just sew in ends, and I even put a timer, and when the 20 minutes are up, I stop, and then the next day I do more, and then before you know it, it's done. So I'm totally fine with that. And it's really nice to be crocheting again, and it'll be really, really fun to have this finished and usable. So it's just been sitting around. Now, I did notice yesterday, and I stopped because there was a break on the previous row. I can't imagine that it's a moth, because I've looked and there's no other spot where there is a break of any kind or thinness of any kind. No, it's a big blanket, so maybe I haven't noticed it. I don't know if maybe there was just a thinness in the yarn there or what happened. So I'm going to have to fix that before continuing later today. But that's my first Advent project where I'm doing a little bit of work on it every day. The next project that I'm working on every day, and I'm very, very pleased with myself because I'm actually making progress on this, is the Julgubbe Socks. I'll put a picture here of the original pattern. This is the Julgubbe Socks is a pattern by Anni Gnatty, who's also got the Anni Gnatty podcast. And she's a lovely designer and friend. And I started these socks last year. And I even got the yarn. The red yarn is the yarn that she had used, which is the fiber company Amble. sock, which is beautiful. And this is Sadness Garn Sisu yarn. And this yarn here is, I don't know, some leftover from something a long time ago. And last year I started them, and that's where my brain space was just not doing it. I could not enjoy it. I could not enjoy the color work. And people gave me all kinds of tips, and I tried, and I just couldn't get into it. But I am committed. And so far, there's quite a decent movement on these guys. I can get this over my foot, so I've got enough width there, and I am definitely enjoying it. And I've just gotten past the noses, and now we're building the beard and the red of the sock. Now, as you saw in the sock pattern picture, there is the flea pattern going all along the foot, and I don't think that I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do a plain sock. I did think about maybe doing stripes, but I think I'm just going to leave it and keep it simple. Keep it red. It's just going to be a red sock with this at the top. So my goal for Advent is to do 3 rows of this every day, and once I finish the color work of the first sock, I'm going to start the second sock and do the color work on that one, so that at least I will have finished the color work before Christmas. Then I'll just work on the rest of the sock, and they won't be ready to wear for this Christmas, very unlikely, but they will be ready for next year. And finally, I will have made a pair of color work knitted socks. And I just love this pattern by Annina. I thought it was so beautiful when it came out that I'm committed, damn it. I'm like, these socks are going to happen. So yeah, actually on this side, you can see the nose. There you go. So yeah, really, I'm enjoying this so much more this time around. And that's something else that I'm working on during the Advent season on a daily basis. I do about 3 rows each day, and this is being held in a bag that my friend Kate of the Hawthorne Cottage Craft did. Now, Kate has got her Vlogmas going up. She does Vlogmas every year, so I've been enjoying watching that. And and working on my Advent projects. The last of my Advent projects is to make another gnome. You have right there Nathan, or Gnathan. Nathan, don't know if he had another name, Nathan the something gnome, but I made him last year. If you've been around, you may remember him. And so I am making a friend for him. I find I didn't put enough stuff in the bottom, and he's a little bit tippy at times. So I'll do a little differently this time. So this year I've decided, although I have Sarah Skira's book, when I saw this free one, I was like, I really like him, so I think I'm just going to make him for now. And I thought it's on my phone, it's easy, and every year my goal is to make a gnome. So this year's gnome is Gnatty the Unimagined Gnome, and this is a free pattern. And so far I have done the hat, and I'm just working on the body. So again, these are leftovers of yarns that I've used. I believe this is the West Yorkshire Spinner, their BFL sock, but I don't remember what this is now. It's just not coming to me what it was, but I have a pair of socks in these as well. And so we're working on this again every day. Last night I started the body, and it took me a little bit more than 20 minutes, I would say. I focused on this quite a bit last night because I had time to work on the crochet blanket during the day, and when I was in a meeting that just required me to sit there and listen. And then after I worked on this last night, I worked on the Julgubbe Socks. So by Christmas, I hope that there will be a new gnome. Gnatty and Nathan will be able to hang out together. And then next year, there'll be somebody else made as well. I'm really, really liking this tradition of making a gnome every year. And if you are not familiar with Sarah Skira's work, she's also known as Imagined Landscapes. She has such a fabulous collection of gnomes. This is being housed in some little bag I got somewhere along the way, and I don't even know where. So there you go. I have an unexpected cast on here because I have a colleague who is leaving. I'm very disappointed that she's leaving. And I hope you're not watching, and if you are, look away. I am making her a pair of socks for her going away. And, you know, I always end up using Patons Kroy, which is what this is, for making socks for other people. And I'm always like, I need to make myself a pair of socks with Patons Kroy because it just feels so wonderful. And it's a little bit more plump. I usually use 2.25 millimeter needles for my socks, but I'm actually using I believe 2.75. And I cast on 56 stitches, and I'm just doing a traditional, you know, sock with a heel flap and gusset and going down, and I've just started at the foot, so it's not clear yet when she's leaving, and again, this is something that I just work on a little bit every day, but if it turns out that she's leaving sooner rather than later, I'll probably put a lot of effort into trying to finish these before she goes, but I thought I'll make her a pair of socks for herself. So this is what I'm working on actively. So there won't be a finished sweater in my life for a wee while. I did start, I showed you my vest sort of exploration last time. I'll just put a picture here in case you weren't here. And I have started a second one, but I'm putting this aside for now. Many of you expressed interest in having this pattern written up, which I really appreciate. I'm glad you thought it was attractive, and it really is a lovely, simple thing. So I've started a second one, and this one would be very different. This is made out of a DK yarn, which is an alpaca bamboo merino blend again, the same as the Shenandoah actually, and it's in this olive green, and I have olive green mohair to go with it. I had to restart the right front because I didn't follow my own instructions. Now, what I need to do is really start writing this out formally, because once I get to the end, I don't remember anything. So my hope is that over the next month, I will start to write this out. And if that's so, if it works out okay, then perhaps I will publish the pattern after I've had some people test knit it. So we'll see, but this is not going to get a lot of love right now because I really do want to finish the other things. So that is what I have been working on in the last little while since I last spoke to you. What are you working on? Are you working on anything that is Christmas related, or have you got no time for that, or perhaps it's not even a thing for you? But what are you working on these days? Are you making anything? If you do celebrate Christmas, are you making any gifts? Are you doing any Advent knitting? Are you knitting something for yourself? I'm curious to hear what you're working on. Now, what I wanted to do next was talk a little bit about the two make-alongs that I would like to host in 2025. They will both be full year make-alongs. The first one will be called the LBK Shop Your Stash Make-Along, and it will be the hashtag LBKSYS 2025. So that stands for Little Big Knits Shop Your Stash 2025. This will be a make-along. It's a make-along because it can include knitting, it can include crochet, it can include spinning and weaving and sewing, anything that's fiber related. And the idea is to shop your stash. So you are shopping your stash of materials that were purchased or received before the end of 2024. So anything before December 31st of 2024 of this year, essentially. And so the idea is to use up things that we have in our stash. My goal is to do that as much as possible because I have a ridiculous amount of yarn. And I would like to use it and enjoy it and diminish my, or you know, like, I don't know how much. Have at least less yarn at the end of the year if possible. I've been doing an in and out all this year, and I am down yarn, and I will be down yarn at the end of this year. In fact, I've been doing it like yards in and yards out, and I will be down, I think, well, the blanket, if I finish it, is a lot of yards. Right now, I'm down about 8,000 yards of yarn. Next, and my goal was 15,000, so I won't be there. But I probably, with the blanket, will be at about 11 or 12,000 yards down. So I am hoping in 2025, I'm going to set myself a goal. But really, I want to spend most of the year shopping from my stash. I'll allow myself to buy a little bit of yarn, but I think I'm going to wait for special occasions like Knit City Montreal. Any other trips I do, there I might allow myself to buy a little bit of yarn. And the same will go for fabric. I have a lot of lovely fabric, and I sew when I can, but I would like to focus on the materials that I have and the patterns that I have and get through them. So if you want to join me, I would love it. And so the hashtag LBKSYS 2025 can be used on Instagram. There will also be a group in Ravelry, in our Ravelry group for Little Big Knits. There'll be a thread where we can post things, and there will just be one thread, and there will be prizes at the end of the year that, for those who have participated. The other one that I want to do is, as I mentioned last time, and people really seem to like this idea, is a way, and I don't have a name for this yet. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. What do we call this next one? So this is going to be knitting and crochet related only. And it is basically about knitting designs or from designers, but really designs that have less projects. So they are lesser known, right? This will also be all year. And the idea of this one is to explore knitting or crochet designers who are perhaps less well known, or they may be well-known designers, but who have some lesser well-known designs. They're just not made by many people. So it's a way to really highlight and celebrate some of the lesser known designs that are out there, or designers, right? And it's interesting because sometimes, you've got designers, I'll just mention Andrea Mowry, who her designs are always made by a lot of people. I was looking through her history of designs, and in the beginning, there are a few that have less projects associated with them, but they're always well over 100. But Stephen West, who's a very well-known designer and has certain shawls that have, hundreds, thousands of people making them, he also has lots of designs that have very, very few projects. So, those particular designs could be part of this make-along, for example. There are also designers such as Isabella Clark, who designed the Velvet Moss Tea. She's a newer designer and has, a lovely repertoire of designs, but there are less projects associated with them. So that would be somebody who would really be part of this and be the perfect candidate to be celebrated. So, I don't know what to call this yet. If you have a name for this, let me know. And the criteria for this will be that there has to be less than 50 projects. I think 50 is good. I was waffling between 50, 75, 100, but I'm going to say 50. Let's be strict on this. So there have to be less than 50 projects on Ravelry when you start it. And it can really be anybody. Somebody asked, hey, I'm a designer. Can I knit my own things? Absolutely, please do. If you have published designs and there aren't that many projects, you can totally do that. And what my goal will be also in 2025 is to talk about lesser known designers or designs in every episode of the year. So my hope is to bring up the name of at least one designer in each episode and talk a little bit about their designs, show you some of their designs, and that might inspire you to knit them as well, or at least we'll become more familiar with some people who have lots of beautiful designs but they're less known designers, or they may be designers who are known, but they don't actually have that many projects knit. So, but the idea really is to kind of get outside of the box, outside of the really well-known designers, and sort of explore a little bit other designers. So speaking of that, I wanted to spend a little moment talking about some new patterns in my library. In the last month since I last spoke to you, or 3 weeks, whenever it was that I was there, I've got a few new patterns in there, and I wanted to talk about those. The first one was one that I bought this week. The pattern came out and I jumped on it. There was a discount code, and this is a pattern by Ciaran called the Ebba pullover. And it's a beautiful lace pattern that sort of mimics cables. It's a DK sweater with a drop shoulder construction, and I really love it. Ciaran's known very much for her cables, and I'm often not that big of a cable lover. I don't tend to like sweaters that have a lot of cable because there's something about it that just makes me feel like there would be too much fabric. I love the idea of some cables, or cables mixed with lace or things like that, but a lot of those sweaters that are just cable all the way around, there's something about that just doesn't always sit with me. I always think I want to make one, and perhaps one day I will, and I have many, many years ago, but I don't always love wearing them. But this pullover by Ciaran just really caught my eye, and so I picked that up. The other one that really caught my eye was a new sock design by Nancy Wheeler. This is a fingering weight sock pattern, and it is called the Splendiferous Socks. It's a pattern that's using 2 colors to create stripes, but there's also a slip stitch thing happening there, and it just creates such a visually beautiful look to the socks. So I wanted to get this pattern right away, and I'm kind of thinking, which sock yarns should I use to make this? I think it could be so fun in something like green and white for Christmas, or she has it like that with a blue, and they're just so pretty, so I had to get that. Nancy's a fabulous, fabulous sock designer, and the first purchases of this, I can't remember the dates, they will go to charity. So I bought that. The other one that I got was a very Christmas related pattern, and I got it because it's so beautiful. This is the Ice Crystal Snowflake Ornament. It's a fingering weight pattern, although it's knit on 3 point something needles, so I think you could probably go up to a sport weight or even a DK and end up with a bigger ornament. And this is a pattern by Shelley Cormack, and it's using sort of cables and a combination of twisted stitches and pearls to create this beautiful, beautiful motif. So I thought maybe if I finished my gnome really quickly, I might make an ornament. We'll see. But that could be a great goal one year, is to make, 6 new ornaments in the 24 days or something like that. Another pattern I bought, which was on sale, Gudrun Johnson was having a sale, and I decided to take advantage of it because there's a couple of patterns of hers that I've wanted for years, and one of them is the Hansel. She has the full Hansel, which is what I got, as well as a half Hansel. And it is this beautiful, beautiful wrap. It could also be a sort of a children's blanket or a lap blanket that is this traditional construction. And it's so beautiful. And so I thought, you know what? It's on sale. I'm going to buy it. Merry Christmas to me. So those are patterns that I recently purchased. I was also given 4 patterns by a designer known as Imke von Natusius. And Imke very kindly sent me these 4 patterns. Thank you very much for that. And they are lovely. Now I'm going to mention the last one that I have on my list first, because this was the one that I knew about. She has a pattern that was, I believe, in Pom Pom magazine, and it is the Prairie Skies pattern, and this is a combination of crochet and knits. and knitting. It's a DK sweater, and you do a crochet kind of yoke, and then the rest of the sweater is knit. Amy Palco of The Meaningful Stitch made this, and I remember when she made it being quite enthralled with it. And this is a design by Imke. So that was really cool because I had not known who the designer was. She also sent me the Lihan sweater, which is also a DK sweater. It's a yoked sweater, and the yoke is created with eyelets. The increases are created with eyelets, and it just has this beautiful sort of star eyelet pattern there, and it is lovely as well. The third sweater that she sent me was the sand sweater. I think that's how you would pronounce that. And it is a really fun striped sweater that is also got sort of a star motif created that creates an interesting visual effect with the stripes. And she made it in a sort of a lovely kind of like red and white combination, not quite red and white, but in that direction. And this is also a DK pattern and really lovely. And the last one that she sent is a shawl. It's a small shawl, so it would be perfect as a sort of a scarf kind of thing. And it's called the Nova shawl. And this is got sort of it's a textured shawl made with a sport weight yarn. But I think you could easily make it with a fingering weight as well, or a DK, and you would end up with something slightly smaller, something slightly bigger. And I have to say, I've grown to realize, or I've come to realize, that I don't love ginormous shawls. They are fun to make. They're often really, really stunning and a great way of exploring, you know, different shapes, putting different yarns together. But I've come to realize I just don't wear them that much, because when I'm wearing a coat, I usually would rather have something close to my neck. So I have found, you know, the Party Line by Casey Apple or the Sophie Scarf by Petite Knits to be really useful. So something like this Nova shawl also, I think, is just a really useful thing to have. So one could say that today's sort of lesser known designer is Imke von Natusius. Those are 4 patterns from her, really, really lovely. And thank you for sharing those with me. So there you go. Those are the patterns that have come my way. Now I wanted to spend a moment just talking about retreats. As you know, I have gone for the last 2 years to New Mexico and have been there for the Knitting New Mexico retreats that are hosted by my friend Lauren. And well, we kind of host them together. And although she was the brainchild, and I will be going again next year, we will be hosting and also giving the workshop well, not really a workshop. We're going to be doing a project together. We're going to have back-to-back workshops in November. So what was it now? From the 5th to the 8th and the 9th to the 12th, I believe, are the 2 dates. So I'll share links for that when, you know, registration is open and all that kind of thing. But I'm also going to be going to Cornwall, England next year. This will be in September. There will be a retreat hosted by Jane Abraham, who has the Stitches and Cream wool shop in Falmouth. And she also has a lot of really interesting things that she does in terms of building community. And one of those things will be a retreat. And I will be attending that retreat and giving the workshop that I developed on sweater modification. So I'm really excited about those 2 things. I'm very excited to go to England and give this workshop. It's going to be a very small retreat. Yeah, I'm just very, very excited. So I will link both of those websites below. The one in Cornwall, I believe you can also already reserve a spot by giving a certain amount of money. Can't remember how much it was. And so feel free to check that out if that is something that might be of interest to you. And yeah, I just wanted to mention those 2 things. I'm very excited. And we'll see if there are other opportunities for other retreats or other workshops next year, and I'll tell you about them if they do come up. Wow, I think that's about it for me, to be honest. What have I been doing? It's been a busy time. As I said, I've had issues with my knee, so I've been focused on that a lot. and trying to improve that. I also joined a gym, which has been a little bit of a challenge because of my knee, but it's a really big gym near me, and a neighborhood friend wrote a bunch of us and said, who wants to join? And I was like, you know what? I do. So I've been doing classes there that are not high intensity or not high impact in any way. In fact, they've been less focused on legs and more on either floor work or arm work and that kind of thing. And that has taken up a lot of my time because I've been going about 3 times a week, and they have a fabulous sauna and I have a shower after, and it's just been really, really great. So that's something that I've been focusing on. Obviously now we're into December, and so there's going to be focus on some baking and some crafting and getting Christmas organized. This will be the first year that we have a tree. The tree has already gone up. We haven't decorated it yet, but let's see how it goes with Dipper the dog. We needed to make space in our living room, so we got rid of our piano and space more than anything for the dog. And we haven't played the piano in a long time. And I thought, I'd rather not have the piano and have space for now, for the crate for the dog, but eventually for another sitting area in our living room or that kind of thing. Yeah, that's really been about it. In terms of, I'm sure there's other stuff that's just not coming to my mind. I have done a little bit of Netflix viewing, and a couple of things that I've watched, actually 3 things. One was the documentary about Martha Stewart, which is actually really interesting. She's a very interesting character and interesting individual who is quite a force to be reckoned with. And it was really interesting to see how she built her empire, so to speak, and the different things that she's been through and the kind of person that she is. It was really interesting. Also watched a great whodunit with Nicole Kidman and Liev Schreiber called The Perfect Couple. That was a lot of fun, and I pretty much binge watched that, and it was great. And then the other one that I watched, that was also another one that I just kind of binge watched, and it was really fun, is a romantic comedy called Nobody Wants This, with Kristen Bell, and I cannot remember the name of the guy, but it's essentially a romantic comedy between a young Jewish rabbi and a young woman who is not Jewish, who's a Gentile, I guess, and and just the various things that happen as a result of that, their differences. So, and that was really fun. It was very sweet. They have 1 season, and I believe there is going to be a 2nd season of that show coming. So that's what's been on. Otherwise, I've been watching Vlogmas and watching other podcasts here and there. As I said, I've been watching Hawthorne Cottage Craft. I also, Jane Abraham, who has the Stitches and Cream, she's also got a podcast, and she just released a new episode, so I watched that. I've also been watching the Vlogmas by Sandy by the Lakeside and Yana of Finnish Knitting Stories, and I try and limit it to 3 at most because I just don't have time to keep up with that many, and sometimes I end up having to miss 1 evening just because life is just too complicated, and that's that. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been up to, friends. I hope this podcast has found you well, and I hope that you're finding some joy and peace and loveliness in this time of the year, wherever you may be. And if you are a winter lover, I hope you've got a good winter coming your way. If you're not, gird your loins and we'll get through it over here in the upper hemisphere, northern hemisphere of the world. And yeah, take good care. I hope that you'll have a good Christmas if you celebrate, and I will very, very likely see you in the Twixmas time. That's usually when I come in to check in on how things have gone. So until then, all the best to you. Thank you for being with me throughout this year, whether you're new or a long timer. Thanks a lot for being here. I so much appreciated it. Take care.
Tend to tell me when you'll show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby will be. Santa, tell me when you'll show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby will be tonight. It's all I need, somebody that'll only care for me, somebody I can give her time and ring, someone in this puzzle who can be my missing piece. You know I don't need anything else this Christmas Eve. Just want someone to be with under the shining tree. Hear the sleigh bells ring and the caroling under the mistletoe, under the moonlight. We can take it slow, I can be your only guide. Don't need to think twice when I got you by my side. With you everything feels just right. Didn't want to admit that I needed this wish. I know you got a lot on your list, but all I'm asking is Santa, tell me when you show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby will be. Santa, tell me when you show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby will be tonight. Tonight, tonight, tonight. Somebody out there must be facing cold, without anyone to hold. And this Yuletide season's not meant to be alone. I really wanna believe you got plans for me. Santa, tell me when you show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby will be. Santa, tell me when you show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby will be. Who my baby will. Santa, tell me when you show yourself to me. Please help me find who my baby will be. Yeah. Santa, tell me when you show yourself to me. Help me find who my baby, who my baby, who my baby, who my baby will be tonight.